Hey guys, and welcome back. I just got done finishing up the welding on this. I jumped forward because I needed to get this thing finished and out of here. But it's all done all the way around, except for now we're going to move to the next phase, which is getting it so it doesn't go back into rust again. But before we get into that, when we hop on a creeper, I guess we'll do show and tell. Go show the bride of Miss Frankenstein here. That's all patched on the inside, frame going back in, reattached to the frame head. Bottom of the shock towers. Got a patch behind it and then continued the shock tower back down again. Everything is 14 gauge or 8th inch 11 gauge. And I would say that guy's pretty solid. That side definitely came out better than the other side. The other side, unfortunately, somebody else had their way with her. And she's a little sloppy because of it. But I feel that's pretty strong though. That's me. And then that's not me. But as you can see where the lift is holding the front of the car, there's the back leg, there's the front leg of the lift, and then there's nothing all the way out. So that frame is being supported by the worst place you could pick a convertible up. Right there is how it's being picked up. I'd say she'll do just fine. And the other front piece. Then up here, this side wasn't as bad. This side was not as blown out. Plus I knew what to expect after repairing the first side. So I boxed it all in. The bottom of the strut tower was worse on this side than the other side. So much bigger patches, and then we extended it back down again. He's gonna put what's called a Monte Carlo bar, which I'll show you later. Open the entry, the hood. This guy, the box is gone behind here, so I built a new box back in here, and then you can see the two big plug welds on the bottom that's welding back to that box like it would have been from the factory. And then this is a light skin. It's really not doing anything. It's not for structural purposes. It's for separating the two sections of the firewall. And it had a little section gone in it, so I just scabbed over and caught that. I gotta put the fuel line in the emissions evap line back, and then same over here. Master cylinder switches are out of the way, and something else is taken back too, I forget. A couple of patches in there and retied that to the top of that frame head. This is the area where the steering box is, and I wanted to get that back to the box behind here. So this is welded to that box, and then this goes over, attaches to that. So that's all again 14. So again, it's not Flintstone-y. It was Flintstone-y. It's Frankenstein-y. But I feel it should be plenty well strong enough. One thing he does need, first of all, it's missing the dust cover. Second of all, that is an issue. So he's grab an idler arm. Everything else looks sturdy on it. That's all. Again, open in the bottom, so everything kind of piss out of them. Same thing on this side. I didn't bother. It was a little more closed in than that, but not much. There was another lip folding back on that. I want to leave it open so that we can get the joy juice up in there. Hang out there again. Back to where we started. Let's just say that was a pain. A Monte Carlo bar goes from this shock tower to the 3 bolts. It kind of comes across and grabs the 3 bolts on the top of that strut tower, and is up higher so that the wheels are down bottom of my thumb here. And then here's the shock towers that kind of float up in the top as you're going over surfaces. They want to kind of tweak and flex. So if you tie these two top pieces together, it just makes the you know, the bridge that much tougher. So that's going to get added. That's going to help the car out a lot too with its inherent super beetle issues. It's one of the reasons why these cars are not as sought after as the other ones, because of how the new improved front end is. That's everything bouncing right dead center of the car. Don't think I would try that before I did the metal work. So the only thing holding the car together, probably open the other door. The top's not doing anything. Is that bunch of metal all the way across. So from there to the top of the tunnel. That's the strength of the car, right in there. That top, not so much. But you also got to remember all the fiberglass dune buggies and stuff that you see with no roll bars on them. Essentially, they're just running around on a pan with a fiberglass shell bolted down to them. So, it is pretty stout for what it is. Very light car. It's 1,800 pounds. This might be a little bit more. It might be a little bit more just from all the electronics that are in it. But being a convertible, it might be just a tad more. And before you say it, no, I'm not priming it. Anything else, because the only purpose of me spraying this black right now, so that when you look under the car, you don't see shiny metal. I'm not really needing it for any rust preventative. I don't want that. Well, that just looks appealing to the eye. Under the car. Because what we do next is what's going to be the, in my opinion, what really works. What works for our area. And this car is going to go and spend the rest of its life in a heated garage. So we'll get kept in a very good climate. And it's just being used as a toy now. I know whereas before it was always used when it was bought new. It was more of just a fancy regular car. I'm going to continue doing this. Got 4 used cans to burn up. Kind of the old blind painting. Yeah, we'll give some of that a hit too. I'd say we probably got 95% of its issues. You know, I'm sure if you took it apart, you're going to get into a little more. I feel that it's much more solid now. It's blowing out on me. He's done. And he's going to come back after I'm done. He's going to do a proper wet undercoating, but I don't know if he wants to scrape off all this crap that's on here. He may want to. It'll be a better job. I'm a firm believer in a wet undercoating. Something that stays wet. And when the hot weather kind of heals itself, it gets thinner and it runs into all the little nooks and crannies and pores. I kind of sum it up as like butter and toast. You make toast, yeah. The butter just goes into all the little crannies when it's hot and kind of then re-solidifies. Well, that's what I like to do with, yeah, you know, I gotta finish that last section. That's what I like to do with the oils and the greases, is get them in all those locations and let them flow around. But when we finish painting this and let it set for a while, maybe we'll start getting into that part of the fun. So everything got hit twice with a spray bomb just to make it black. And now we go for the grease. That is going to be our outer protective barrier. It won't be for the inside, but it's set up here. It is going to be for the outside. It's going to get poop rubbed all in it. If I show what I'm doing instead of where I was, right? So everything is going to get a coat of grease packed into its little bitty pores. And then what's going to happen is this car is going to drive down a dusty road at some point. It's going to get a thin layer of dirt. It's going to look something like that. And then that is going to be like the turtle shell. Grease, it does not need the dirt as much. It doesn't rely on it. It's the you spray oil on it because oil is thinner. The grease isn't going to wash away as easy. But you can still get it off. If you really want to, you can get it off. You hit it with thinner and break it up, and if you got to go back and weld this spot or do something, you can. But this is what I'm going to do on the whole vehicle. Trying to fill all its pores, and it'll be for the outside of it. I'll bring you back once I change my gloves, because you're gonna get messy if I'm trying to hold on to you. Alright, so I ran around her with the mitten of grease, wiped everything down, got them all pretty good. And what that does, it just makes a big thick moisture barrier. So you need three things, you know, water, oxygen, and iron. To make the rust, if you take one of them away, it can't do that. So you're basically almost stopping two of them. You're stopping the moisture and you're stopping the oxygen from getting to it by having a layer in between. Water could spray right against it, but it's not going to be able to get through it. Now you wouldn't want to do this if the car was dry, wet. You want to do it when the car is dry. And this car has been in here for about 10 days now, and it's pretty dried out. You just don't want to trap any moisture that's in it. Let me see if I can give you an example of something already on the car that has got oil on it. So, right here, this is where the engine and trans meet. Oil drips. Oil drips. Still has paint there. No oil drips. Doesn't have paint there on the exact same piece of metal. Well, that kind of idea, because it gets encapsulated, it can't really rust the deal. You know, it's got some paint chipped off and stuff from the engine getting taken in and out and hit, but it's not that. Try to get you that compared to that. I don't know if that's a good example, but you get the idea. So that is for the outside. That should hold that pretty good. And he's going to come back again with a paintbrush and do oil or grease and get all this other stuff. I'm just trying to protect what I did for now, and he's going to take care of the rest. And then like after you drove through a storm, through a dust and dirt, and you got a good layer on it, say the next year kind of comes along, what you do is you go back and you hit it again, you can kind of build it up. Once you do about twice, it gets a nice thick layer to anytime in its future, you just grab a nail and you scrape it away, and you got like a, you know, a 16th or an 1/8 inch of crud in between it, and that seems to be what does the trick. I'll show on some of the other vehicles. Crusty, one of the Tundras I should bring in. Again, this is all just my opinion. But this seems to be what works for me, so I don't mind sharing it. All right, let's get into some of the innards. I should do. This is just a undercoating gun. And I think I have bar and chain oil in it, judging by the thickness of it. But I think for the rails, I want to go with thinner, just because I want it to kind of be able to flow up and down the rails. I want to punch a bunch in there so that there's actually like a wave, so to speak, in there. So when, as the cars drive and it kind of can like flow around, like sealing up a gas tank when you put the stuff in it. So I want the oil to kind of do the same. So I want to get quite a bit in there, and I want it fairly thin so that it does run into all the nooks and crannies. And then also what will happen too, say this is the inside of the frame rail, and this is the best thing. So I patched it on the outside. So I cut the bottom section away. The bottom is open right down to this piece of metal, and then, you know, roughly something like that on the inside. This is of course a blown up scale. Is you kind of want the oil to kind of soak up and like have a capillary to try to run up the sides a little bit into those cavities. The outside's already covered with grease, so if you get that fairly sealed up, it'll you know, soak up the sides somewhat. And you're just trying to make a moisture barrier even between the two of them. So if you're able to just have an oil wall in between there, if any water gets in there, it can't really go any place that the oil already hasn't gone, and it's already made a barrier in between there. That's the attempt. And it's not going to rust out in those locations. It's going to, other parts of the car that you didn't get to are what's going to rust out way before any of this does. My opinion again. I jump back and forth between the two sides, and put half the bottle on one side of the rail and the other half on the other rail on the other side. So those are pretty filled up, and I got a bunch of different cork sizes. And for now, we're just gonna plug those puppies up. And I'm probably gonna have him leave it the way it is and run it for a while. If he gets into some rainy weather that he drives it in, that's gonna be too big for there. If you get some rainy weather, to then drill maybe 2 holes in the bottom, and he can let it out if he feels water got in it. I think it's actually gonna be better off if it doesn't, if you leave it sealed up. That should just kind of, you know, swish around in there, and over time kind of coat everything and keep recoating everything. You know, as I said, it stays wet, so it kind of will flop around, and the outside is I shot up inside these sections here, but we're going to come back. We're going to do a little bit more with these. We get those corks on the other side, and we'll move on. So this area, this one, I was able to shoot oil up inside with the gun, and I got all that nice and wet, so I don't have to worry about that one. But this one is sealed off, and this chamber is sealed off. So we are going to do something like one there, and we're gonna do one. Take those out. I'm gonna do my best to shoot oil into those two guys. Let's see how well oil and cameras mix. I am going to try getting the nozzle of the gun right up against the hole, kind of giving it a shot. I know it's going to spray back on the outside of it here, but I'm going to try to get some just kind of sprayed around in there and sprayed around in there. If I don't feel I was able to get that, I'm going to come back with just some fluid film. I can get the nozzle right up inside there and spray around. They're not very big chambers that are up in there. Let's see how well this works. I would say that definitely has it. It's a lot of material going at one time. And when it goes in there, it's a mist, you know? It's that. Hi guys, well, I'm winding down my day. I got what I wanted to get complete. I put the screws back in, shot them all full of oil. I did really good, and then the grease is on the other stuff. Put the corks in. I tried to find another rubber plug. I stopped at like Home Depot. Couldn't find anything. I'm sure you can order them online. But I knew I had the corks, so I'm going to tell him to keep an eye on those. If he finds that those are degrading over time, to change them out with either rubber or plastic of some sort. But for now, they should be okay. And he may drill the bottoms, like I said. I would keep an eye on it. I know he's going to come back and oil up the whole rest of it or grease it up. I would probably go more with the grease like I did. Kind of try to rub it all in. I don't know if he wants to try knocking some of this crap off first, you know. But again, I'm stopping. I'm looking to protect what I did, and he already said he's going to attack it afterwards. I just didn't want him to do it before I did my thing, because that would have been a big mess, a big fire hazard. I should be happy. And on this side, I went and I shot the weld that somebody else did, but it's really kind of popcorny. So I went and I just shot the oil gun right down that seam there. You can see it all dripping down over the grease. Just because I wanted to make sure there was more up inside there, because it's so porous. What I did my thing, it's fairly good. You know, you just rub it with grease and then the cracks are full. But that was kind of suspect. And before I put the plug in, it was actually running out of the front of this one. So the oil level's up to that plug and going across. As this car rolls, like I said, it'll kind of splash itself around and flow itself around in it. And hopefully it could just stay that way. Two more over here. The old days, cars, they used to take them into quarter panels, right? And you open the trunk on each side, the drops that go down are notorious for rotting out in cars. People would just take a quart of oil and just dump it right in there, just leave it there. For the same reason. That's what we're doing here. Alright guys, well, I'm going to throw some kitty litter down, dry up the floor, and so get the tires on it. And it can go its merry way, and I can get onto something else. Well, it's fun. I got into it much more than I thought I was going to get into it. That's just the way those things go, right? On that, guys, I'm going to wrap her up. I want to thank all you guys for coming around and hanging out in the garage with me and getting a little dirty. Till the next time. Later. And that 20 pounds of rust. That's just what I hammered up and swept off the floor, not what I cut out. My amendum, we'll go with that one. So, wrapping this thing up, I want to do a little bit more, is I just want to say that this car gets a new lease on life. It gets to be used all over again. And because it comes up in every time we do this, not everything has to get restored completely. It becomes a dead project when that happens. If you were to take this car apart and do everything in it that you possibly could do to correct all of its woes, it's a $40,000 car when you're done that you have in it, but it's not worth $40,000. So no one's going to go through the time to do everything, and you get the might as wells too. You know, you're all the way down into doing paint and upholstery and everything. If you're going to take it that far apart, you're going to do everything else when you put it back together, all the new seals, new everything. So it adds up. Whereas this is, it's stitched back together and it's good to go and be used as a driver for probably quite a long time, as long as it stays you know, high and dry in its future. So not bad for a 45-year-old car. It's still going, and my math right there. And it'll be around for a lot longer, hopefully. All right, guys, that's all I wanted to say.